I would like to procure the bag.
I wanna be a rich bitch. Penthouse doorman, money, 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 rich bitch. Hey, give me that bag. Rich bitch.
Yes, you're so rich.
Pay me.
What is
Got it.
what is in the error?
I'm gonna keep my sag-aftra background for no one. Just
No, I
because
love
of
it. No, please do. It's topical, I'm sure. But today has
Oh.
been I don't know how your day has been just yet because we haven't gotten that far yet, but
Okay, let's get there.
I am emotionally like wrecked today for absolutely unsure reasons. Like I just was like back at the office sitting there in a suit and tie and just like ready to just scream and burn the place down.
Oh, so if you guys listen to this in 4 months and there's, I'm just kidding,
Right.
you know who did it. I'm just kidding.
It
Evidence.
Was me. It was me. Yeah.
I'm the problem.
I'm the problem. It's me.
It's
and
me.
really, like, I just have to keep reminding myself that because it is like I'm such a queen champion of getting in my own way at all times. And I'm like so in my head about like what I should do versus what I am doing versus what I want to do versus what like it's I don't know. I'm tired and I wanted to like have a good cry at the office. I wanted to have a good like it's that moment where like you just want to like did you ever watch Big Mouth?
Of course.
So like the depression kitty that Maya Rudolph plays, like, and she just like lays on top of her and she's like, doesn't that feel nice?
You like that? Yeah.
I'm just like, part of me just wants to lay in bed and do nothing and like just have a little bit of a scream cry and then I'll be okay. And then the other part of me wants to go run 75 miles and do 40,000 push-ups. It's just this weird dichotomy that I'm feeling like really torn between right now. And like it's part of me is like, shut up and don't be an ungrateful cunt, you asshole, because like there's so many good things happening and at the same time like there's the other side of that I'm like,
well, it's the duality of everything.
Right,
I mean,
right.
Also, the world is very extreme right now.
Yes, growing pains is what I'm chalking up to. But yes, well, I loved what you're talking, like where this is going to, because I want to hear what you have to say. I just saw a TikTok that ties into this where Sarah Silverman is suing ChatGPT because it is using her copywritten material to create things that it's learning from to create new things that she has created. So she is suing them for copyright infringement and intellectual property things, which my friend Tony, I would love to have him on here to like talk about this too, because
we should have him on.
He's a copyright lawyer and I love him. Tony Iliakostas, the IP professor on TikTok. But if she wins this, that sets such a great precedent for moving forward. Very similarly to how he and I discussed before, like the Bette Midler case from the 80s where she sued for the mimicking of her voice and she won, and so there's that precedent also, and I'm sure that would influence Sarah Silverman's case. So with that said, and the shit show of it all happening in the world right now, let's get into what your day has been.
Let's get into the gig. Well,
get
unfortunately, not a lot I can publicly say, but I will say this. Well, I also wanted to bring up another case. I think we've talked. Oh, I love your more blurred.
I just wanted to blur it. I feel like you have a background. I should have a background.
Okay, I love that. So I do. First off, Sarah Silverman. Let's get it.
Love.
Thank God. Because here's the thing. We are getting robbed of our intellectual property. We are getting our creativity packaged and sold, whether it's by the MPTP or by ChatGPT or whoever is doing it. But it's still our property. It's our intellectual property. And I'm on her side, obviously. If she could change the way things go, let's go. I think we've learned in this country that when we have a court case that says precedents like Roe v. Wade, when that's then taken, we backtrack heavily. So we are a court-led country, for better or for worse. Supreme Court aside, but I do, but I do think that today is the 10th of July. We are ticking down to the moment where negotiations with the MPTP with sag-aftra will stop and cease, and then the national board will meet, I believe, on Thursday to decide what we do.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it's already hit various trades, whether it's Variety or Deadline, but there is organization happening.
Yeah, that article you
Um,
sent me from Variety was crazy. I like almost couldn't believe that I was reading it.
First time in 63 years if this goes through that
Yeah.
we have been striking. Now, that ties into what we were just saying. There's a lot of extremes happening. There's a lot of
Right.
growing pains happening.
Yes.
It's both painful, like growing pains, but it's also both necessary for change. When the world is changing at a rapid pace, and also in good ways, there are also a lot of roadblocks that are being created that weren't there before. So we have to adapt. We have to be stealthy. We have to change while remaining firm in our values. And I believe that's the same thing for humanity. It's the same thing for us as people. As we shift into different phases of our lives, or as we take different bookings, or we take risks, or we creatively grow, there's going to be painful moments and extreme moments of feeling both elated and powerful, and then also feeling disenfranchised and heavy.
Well, I mean, and when stuff like that happens, and I know we've talked about this before, but it's very much adapt or die. Like
Yeah.
you either get excited about it and figure out like where you fit within this change that you're happy to welcome, and like figure out how you can use it to your benefit, or you get left behind while the rest of us do that.
Right.
Especially with something like what's going to be happening with SAG-AFTRA in partnership with the WGA, and like figuring out how to maneuver around AI and everything surrounding it. Because I mean, it never in a million years did we think, well, maybe in a million years, but we,
Sure.
this wasn't necessarily predictable, even though we knew it was possible.
Right.
And so, here we are. And like you said, 63 years since the last time this has happened, like the world has changed. And so
Right.
maybe this sets the bar for governances like this to be revisited and whatnot every 5 years, every 10 years,
100%.
to see like how we can continue to adapt within an industry so stuff like this doesn't happen again.
Right. And I think some of that too is like there's no crystal ball to how things will be turned into a profiting sector, because this is a capitalist, society. This is especially, when it comes to our contracts, we're making money. We're creatives, but we're
Right.
making money. So once it becomes monetized is when we need to make sure we've taken control. And that's what we need to be preemptive about. And that's what this is, truly. There's things that haven't even happened yet that were, I'm sure, I can't say either way or there, either here or there, but I'm sure that the leadership is discussing things that are even, we don't necessarily have the full capacity of, but they're covering bases. It's the same thing. It reminds me of back when SAG-AFTRA was already on top of influencer agreements before they were even like, are you union? Are you not? Yep. Well, you can be now, and we've got you. There's been a lot of forward thinking and advances, especially in the last 10 years, but with that comes, the responsibility to keep that going. I also think too, if we go back to the 60s, that was the biggest change in our society for civil rights, for justice, for everything. I mean, the 60s in America were a very tumultuous
Crazy
crazy fucking time. But it's also when the most change happened. And I think we're there again.
Yeah,
In a
certainly.
lot
I
of
mean,
ways.
yeah, I mean, I saw this explanation of how history is in cyclical blocks of 80 years, and every 20 years there's a new version of what's going on. And um we're almost due to be back in that 80-year period of time where it's like not quite the 60s yet, but like we're looking at the 30s and 40s where World War II happened, and then like the big resurgence of American patriotism happened, and like all that other shit, and then the 60s happened, and then whatever. So
Counterculture. Yeah.
right. And so like I can't speak to the future, obviously I can't read it, but I definitely feel like there's
We feel it.
something's going to happen one way or another, and I'm hoping that it is in favor of those who are the right side of this,
Right.
so that we don't see more corporate conglomerates and humans like vacuuming up our work that we're doing for pittance and pennies because like we love it. And I think I really want the era of creatives and artists being taken advantage of to make money for
abused.
the bigger guys. Yeah, like I really want to see those gone. And part of that, you know, is unfortunately by design, artists and creatives aren't necessarily taught business. They aren't really taught how to do that side of things. And I feel like that's on purpose, so that we are kind of left in the dark and left ignorant and stupid to that point of it, so that they can take advantage of us. Like, how many of us actually read our contracts when we get them? How many of us actually read terms and conditions? We look at
how much of our reps do, you know what I mean? Like, I trust my peeps, but that doesn't mean that, you know, everybody's people are reading all the stuff. You know, people get screwed. I mean, I was thinking about even especially in the music industry.
Oh my God. I was thinking about that the other day too. Kesha, like, what a terrible example.
Yeah, we talk
Not
about
her,
film and
but
TV,
like,
but we talk about film and TV, which is this is the biggest medium, is something that we're all watching, ingesting, seeing, that's scripted and is written by a team of artists that are talented and acted and all that stuff. That is the leading highest, you know, echelon of what's in the public view. But you know, that's why this is so important. That's why I have to, reemphasize that this is about scripted content. This is about theatrical contracts. This isn't about commercials. This isn't about print. This is literally about the highest form of entertainment, which is, you know, what we all plug into, which we all binge, which we all, which culturally shifts minds, which, you know, it's a huge, huge thing. And this is the biggest artists union, actors union, going against the biggest producers group in our country, if not the world. And to just say that to everyone listening, I understand there's a lot of anger, and a lot of that anger seems to be coming from places of frustration, but let's make sure that that anger and that frustration is channeled to those who are harming us. And those are the producers taking advantage of us. Those are the people taking our money and advantage of us. It's not the people that are in our guild with us. It is not how you feel today about someone. It's just, we have to make sure, because divided we fall. Just as we have been in such support as a union, and everyone has been in such support of the Writers Guild, and they should be, we have to remain together in this, because I'm telling you now, there are a lot of strange, interesting articles that are just like, what is this? Who wrote this? Like, I don't even know what is upsetting about this. And they just seem gotcha shit. Like, you know, look who's partying with who. Oh my God, kill them. Like, they shouldn't be, you know, whatever. Like, and it's like, was that a weekend? Like, was that, what do you think's happening? I'm just not really sure. So there's like a lot of stuff coming out.
It also begs, like, what's the end game of doing that? You know, it feels very like early 2000s Perez Hilton. Like, why?
Yes.
Why?
It feels like headline fodder. It feels like clickbait. So I just want to say, like, please support your artists. Please support unions. Again, without unions, we wouldn't have protection on child labor. We wouldn't have weekends. Literally wouldn't have overtime. Wouldn't have certain holidays. We wouldn't have any of that. So we have to remember
40-hour work week.
Yeah, welcome. Hi, unions. Thank you for that. So
carry in the banner.
Yeah, exactly. Just watching that recently, I was just like, holy crap, it's like so ridiculous how, and that's based on a true story. The leader was I did some research. It wasn't Jack Kelly, and it wasn't Christian Bale-ish. It was a guy with an eye patch who had such a strong Brooklyn accent. They had to bring a special person to like translate. He's like, hey, what you talking about? He said, so they'd have to like translate it. And I was like, that's the most New York fabulous thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
But obviously they couldn't make that the main character of a Disney musical. But
it would be so funny if it was. I'd almost rather see an adaptation of like the more true story.
Yeah. And I'm walking in like, you know, tori, and then on the bottom, they're just like, he just said that he wanted to.
Or you have like a new character that's like, okay, but what he said was.
What he's trying to tell you is,
that's so
but
funny.
it's so New York to have, and really is to be like pro-union, pro-labor, and be in the streets. And in the next few days, we'll see.
Well, and I'm sure by the time this is out, it will have already happened, and so we'll have to do another I love these bonus episodes. We're gonna have to do another bonus episode about it, because it's gonna be it's gonna be hot take central. Like,
I think too, when that happens, this can be something I can be the spearhead on, is getting some of our union leaders on the pod.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
we need to organize. Obviously, right now it's kind of an interesting time, and
Yeah,
there's an
nobody has
election
the
coming up,
time,
and
of
blah, blah,
course.
blah. And legally, even just communicating with people, it's like, I can't say particular things, but here's the best part about it is, though, nobody knows exactly what's going to happen until it happens. It's very
Right.
interesting, because I'm sure even the people, that know all the things, are doing this based off of the poor behavior or good behavior of the producers. Because the bottom line is, you want an agreement. That's the other thing I'm saying, is like, the bottom line isn't that people want to strike, it's that we have
Right.
to.
Yeah. Nobody wants to strike. Striking sucks.
It
Like,
sucks hard. People
yeah,
won't be working as much. But guess what? We will fucking will, bitch.
right.
We
Exactly.
will.
Because that's the thing. Like, by striking, we demonstrate power, and by doing so and
Mhm.
flexing that muscle, we will hopefully get everything that we want, and then that'll just create more money and more opportunity and more work for everybody else.
Right. And I want to say, from the mental health piece, there are very exhaustive days that every person that's an artist, every person that's a human being has felt, when you're making good change in your life, but uncomfortable change. And just, yeah, hold space.
Literally
Like,
me today.
yeah. Is it something that you felt when you just woke up, or is it something like throughout the day that, like, something's hitting? Like, what is there a trigger? I'm just curious, because it
No,
really does depend.
of course it depends. I don't know. I mean, I do like sit at work and I read like Deadline and Variety and Insider and whatnot. But
Mhm.
like, I think some of it is just a little bit overwhelm from everything that's going on
It's a
in the
lot.
industry, and then everything that's going on with me, and like the weird dualities of like my good shit that's happening versus like the, oh shit, like something's got to happen soon
Mhm.
shit, like. So
Yeah.
I don't want to make that the central thesis of this conversation, but
No, but people
it's
can relate
totally
to that,
real. Yeah, it's totally real. I mean,
like
like, the
me.
I just and we don't have to stay on this, but like, I hit today the 500 job application line of, and that doesn't include the amount of jobs that I've put in through recruiters,
Right.
of which I have 11. So it's kind of like, what's happening. I've come so close. I've had some great job
You
interviews. I've had
have.
some really close calls. I've had like 2 and 3 interviews with different companies and whatnot. And it's just kind of like being frustrated, but allowing the space for, then it wasn't the right fit and it wasn't the right thing. And after the year and a half that I've had, like, I just don't want to land anywhere. I want it to be good. And that's not to say that I wouldn't take work that's coming my way, because I certainly am. But
Mhm.
at the same time, it's like, oh fuck, like, just, I feel like there's very much like a monetary deadline of when I need to have something, but it's it's weird. This all plays into like the job market and everything else, and how all that's so fucked up. And hopefully, not that I'm saying like, oh my god, I need a TV job, because like, whatever, we all do, but like, having this expansion of negotiations through SAG, not that it's going to happen like next week, like, will open up new opportunities for all of us.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And the more we protect artists and like people who are creative and people who are pursuing their art and monetarily getting the compensation healthily, that's the more time we can make good things. And it's also shown in history that when societies are having equal footing for everyone, not based on like gender, creed, race, all that stuff, religion, class, when things are less red tapey and less like huge division between certain things, the societies flourish. And this is a great example of what's happening with the writers, what's happening with actors, what's happening with AI, and how it's being monetized against us by other humans, which is rude. I can understand a robot doing it. I'll smack that bitch. But like, to have a person be like, no, let's take from other people who are creative when we're not even creative, is like
Oh my god,
demoralizing. It's
I
fucking
mean,
rude.
literally, the guy who owns Spotify has never written a song in his whole life. He's not a musician at all. Like, why do you think everyone there is getting like 1,000th of a cent
Gross.
per stream? Like, fuck that guy.
Yeah, truly.
Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I hit 10,000 streams on one of my songs a couple months ago.
Yeah, work.
I think it was like $40. Maybe. I know.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, tell me about it.
And we
It's
can see what's going. See, that's just right there. It's
but
just like,
but that also ties into TV because it's the same kind of streaming model. So it's like, Netflix is paying out however much per stream of
yeah,
every show, and there's no ads necessarily for a lot of these platforms. So then, like, how do they make their money? And then
right.
it just becomes this, like, you know alms for the poor situation.
Uh-huh.
Like,
Uh-huh.
everyone please go watch my show so it doesn't get canceled, because, like, I'm sure that if you get 1 million streams, you're getting like $10,
Right.
and so
Yeah, it's gross.
yeah, it's totally gross. And, like, I hate it so much because these people aren't doing this from a place of service. And of course it's capitalism, so you don't have to, but, like,
Yeah.
wouldn't it be lovely if we had someone in charge who was, like, willing to pay a, like, living and fair amount to the people who are
Mm-hmm.
creating things to make their platform that they've
Right.
created, that was their dream come true.
Right. Because
Like,
if you're Netflix, like, don't you want the best shows by the best people? Well, then
yes.
draw them in, attract them, make them
And
like,
I also think that this is because that's interesting too. Like, don't you want the best shows? Well, everything, I mean, yes, the answer is yes, but
of
everything
course.
has become so metrics driven
Yeah.
and so data driven instead of, like, what's good, what's not,
Right.
that, like, I think that's one of the reasons why we've seen such a decline in a lot of the quality of shows that are out there. Not to say that there aren't any good shows. I mean,
So many good.
I'm almost done watching the last season of the other two, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
fucking obsessed. Like, what a
Mm-hmm.
brilliant show.
Mm-hmm.
But then also found out that it was on Comedy Central for forever and no one watched it, so they moved it over to HBO, RIP Max, whatever that is. And
Producer, yeah, those are network executives being real smart. Let's
yeah,
fuck
totally.
for HBO. That's just a really prestigious name and everyone respects and loves. Let's call it Max.
Right. Like,
Just Max.
like my dog.
A
Like,
guy's name.
yeah.
Let's call it John.
Yeah, John. Yeah. HBO John.
Yeah, but now fuck HBO. It's just John.
It's just John.
Just
John.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, it's it's a really, I mean, I get the model, I really do, but I would have thought, and obviously, like, there was some kind of, we can point back to, like, the Napster situation of it all from the early 2000s when that was starting to happen, and Napster was like, no, you're stealing our things. This is just a version of that where they're paying you pennies and saying, like, nope, no, we're not stealing it. We're paying you per stream.
You signed something and then
Yeah,
we
so
manipulated it.
just get more people to stream it and you'll make more money. Like, we're paying
the work
you,
for
we're not
us.
stealing it. Right. It's so and, like, the
It's
music
asinine.
industry has taken a
Way
massive
is even
hit.
worse. Yeah. I always look to the music industry and to be like, what in the fuck?
I know. Well, because the other thing too, I was thinking about this. I was like, why isn't there, like, a union for pop stars?
You know what's so funny is SAG-AFTRA got music videos. So
right.
that
so
was
can we
so
expand upon that?
yes. So what's so crazy? Yes. To be honest, yes, the more people that join and the more people that, and they become eligible pretty easily by music video standards, I think, as opposed to, like, to be a principal in this and and especially for dancers. This was fantastic. This was about 2 years ago. I'm trying to think of the leader. It's a famous music video dancer lady who's fab, and she sat with a team of 12 other music video dancers and people that are in music videos, and literally they got so specific, like, am I getting wet in this video? Is this camera going here? What's the pay for that? Is this going over here? Like, how many, this and that, specific intricate things. And it changed what could happen on music video sets, because you can only imagine the abuses that happen, especially towards women and people.
Oh my God, yes.
Or a lot of men too, especially in like clubby kind of shit. It's like, how long were these men in there, and are they getting water? It's like, other than the water sprayed on them, and it's like, dude.
Right. Well, I think immediately of, like, the Jewel music video for Intuition, where there's, like, fire and she's being sprayed with a hose, and she's like, yeah.
And I'm sure she was hydrated, but
I'm sure she was. She was being sprayed with water, so I'm sure she was.
But almost every big music artist has been in some sort of music video or has been on something, a commercial or whatever, and they join the guild. So that's been really good, an easier get in terms of protecting people and their video. Now their
Right.
music rights, it's a lot harder.
That's
because
a lot harder. That the whole, and especially with the conversation of like the Taylor Swift of it all, with what happened with her producer, who like she had to buy her own catalog back from him and like re-own the masters or whatever happened with that. Now she's re-releasing it on her own terms, like with the Speak Now of like remix of it all. It's just so unchecked. And is there room in SAG to create some kind of protections of that? You know, I mean, like there's BMI and ASCAP and everything else, but like I'm wondering if there's like the pipeline of SAG contract music video, SAG contract live performance that's being filmed.
I think they do now. I think they have that now.
I would hope so.
Yeah. And also like when we merged, this is a while ago, it was about a decade ago now. When SAG and AFTRA merged, Screen Actors Guild, but then American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. When that merged, we got a lot more powerful in terms of covering music artists and protecting their catalog, which we do. I think it was a few years ago when all the classics that were just being used in commercials and stuff, their legacy, like whether it's their families or if they were still alive or whatever,
or an estate or something,
got that back. That happened just a few years ago. That was huge change. I know somebody, Dan Navarro, who's related to Dave Navarro, and he's a friend of mine. He sings so many songs, and he's written so many songs for famous artists, and he's worked on like Encanto and all these like different big things. And the protections that he's been fighting for, in a leadership position has been so admirable. It's just been wonderful. But yeah, there's been a lot of change, but it can only get better. It's just got to be, there has to be more, I think what it has to do, and this is not putting ownership on artists, but we have to advocate as well to ourselves and be active in these spaces, because if it's not our fault that we're being taken advantage of, but I'm saying that there comes a time where you're up against a wall and you're like, man, I got to get involved and I got to like see what are my protections and how can I make it so I'm vocally speaking out like Kesha did, or I'm vocally speaking out like Taylor Swift has done, or how Prince was just like, bitch, get my shit off your platform, honey. Like, I don't even care. Like Prince was like, don't have me on Spotify. I don't even, you know what I mean? Until he died. They didn't, stuff
and
like that.
I think that there's like, I will always push for this. And I know that not everyone has the same kind of like learning and or brain chemistry makeup to be able to do this, but if you can even learn a little bit about the business side of whatever you're doing, like for the love of God, please, it's just going to save us all time better later. Well, and also on top of that, have a lawyer. Google, find an entertainment lawyer that works at, like on a percentage
pro bono
of win or pro bono or something. There's like there's artist specific entertainment lawyers or contract lawyers that, that's who I work with. I work for a contract lawyer who, is pro bono until you win, like, and then there's a percentage deal and whatever. But like, and he's amazing. I love him.
No, he is so great.
Truly. But it breaks my heart to see someone like Kesha, whose mom was in the music industry, go and do a sample for a track without any paperwork, without any, whatever. And then she ends up having a #1 song on the radio that her voice is on, and she's living out of her car eating dollar tacos because she's like, she has no money and no residuals for that at all.
Really, what a queen.
And like, and again, this is people of power, producers who are taking artists who have dreams and wants and hopes and all the things, and manipulating them and taking advantage of them, thinking that they're too dumb to know how to and to ask in the first place.
Right.
And so, this bleeds over into TV, this bleeds over into theater, but like, just learn the business. It doesn't have to be inside out. You just like,
or ask someone for help that is like also in the business. Be like, do you understand like my parameters and my protections? Because I've had to do that. I've been on set where I've been put in really strange positions and really strange and I felt like, oh my gosh, like, do I even have like a thing to stand on? But luckily I've always been confident enough to be like, no, this ain't it.
Yeah. Well,
and I don't care if I lose this job. I gotta do this.
That's such a rare mentality. Like, I don't care if I lose this job. I'm speaking up anyway, because I know me and my peers that I came up through the ranks with in theater were all so afraid to speak out or say anything in any form, because God forbid you lost that job and people found out about it, or God forbid you get, panned as difficult to work with, which just translates into not easily taken advantage of.
Right.
And then, you know, you're just so terrified to say anything ever at all because
Yeah.
you got the thing, you got the job you wanted, you got the dream. This is a building block for your dream. And so when you get there and it's not what you think it's going to be, because it never is, and then you're terrified to speak out.
Right.
And that sucks. And I know firsthand it feels like shit to feel that way because you're just uncomfortable. Like I did this show in Connecticut. I loved it. It was one of my favorite artistic experiences of my life. But the first day that I was there, the artistic director took me to the apartment that I was staying in. And before he left, he like gave me a tour of the apartment, which was like a 1-bedroom. I didn't need a tour, but like he did it anyway. And I was like, cool, cool, cool. And I was like tired and whatever. I like it was a very fast turnover for me to come up there. But before he walked out, he shoved his hand down my shirt and he was like, "Oh, you're so hairy," and like walked out. And I was like, and I had
That's
rehearsal the next day,
awful.
and then I had to face this fucking guy. And the only thing I kept, like, he was a very good director as far as being a director is concerned. And so I
But a
just
gutter
focused.
trash human.
Yeah, but I
Jesus.
just focused on the fact that he was a good director and very thorough, and that
Oh,
got
I'm
me
so
through. But the
sorry.
whole time there was like this through line of being uncomfortable. And that's mild compared to some other things that have happened
Oh,
to
that's
me
awful
and
though.
others, of course. And so like, you know, I wanted that job. I wanted to work with those people and who was attached to it and what it meant to me and for me and what it did for my career. Like if I would have said something, you know, there's no HR department in theater, you know, and like unfortunately that's under a union that doesn't tend to go to bat for circumstances like that. And so it's a very scary place to be in. And yes, there is this apprehensiveness of wanting to speak out. But last year, I can't believe it was almost last year to the date when I was like on the Chicago situation.
Oh my God.
We
Yeah.
were they tried to put us in this housing that was just riddled with mold. And these children, these young Gen Z kids that are in theater spoke. I was mad and I didn't, but in my brain, I was like, don't, you know, rock the boat or whatever.
Yeah.
And these kids banded
Work.
together and they were like, we are not fucking staying here. And they called the producers. They elected someone within the cast to be the representative to speak.
Oh my
And
God. I
like,
love this.
me too. I just
Not
stood
what
there.
happened, but I love their
Right.
response. Yeah.
And I just stood there in the room like, oh my God, in my 20s, I would have never done that. And so I hope and I know that people coming up through the ranks are less tolerant of that.
That's wonderful to hear.
Yes. And then also just learn your contracts, learn the business, like learn when it's okay to speak out.
But you know why that is though? It's because everyone, you know, millennials and those before us are speaking out more and talking about our experiences, and Gen Z is taking the mantle and being like,
Yeah,
I'm
they're taking the
empowered to,
cue.
they're like, oh wait, don't want that shit. That is
Yeah.
terrible. Yeah, no, I actually have a giant studio house that I was attached to a feature in a lead role, and like literally if just a month or two before filming, they added a gratuitous masturbation scene with me in it.
I remember you telling me about
And
this.
I said no. I was like, I don't give a damn if I lose this thing, but I won't be doing that. Obviously I was a little bit more diplomatic, but I didn't even feel once like you should do it because it'll, yeah, but for what? You know, I mean, I just thought of myself as a human being later that night, as an artist, as a person, but just really just as a human being, going to bed that night and being like, I'm allowing this to happen to me. And for what? You know, it's like, am I compromising my integrity? Am I compromising my values so I can just get something career wise? Yes, there's things that, now I'm not saying you shouldn't, you're always not going to get what you want 100%, or you're not going to whatever, but I'm not going to put myself in a dangerous, not okay, damaging position, both psychologically, both mentally, to move ahead. And it probably would have helped me, but maybe it wouldn't have. And honestly, I don't think I would have been able to go to bed and be like, hey, everyone, this is the movie I'm in. This is the big, you know, this is like, but it was so gross was the producer told me that if I'm not willing to do those things, I will never have a career. He told me, you will have no career. And
Yeah.
now that motherfucker is fired and I have a career. So suck it.
Right. Well, and
Okay.
again, it's just like always the leading with the integrity for yourself thing.
Yeah,
that's gonna
I wasn't
win.
mean about it, but I was like, this is really just like inappropriate. It wasn't discussed with me. It wasn't
Yeah.
discussed with my agent. It
It's
wasn't
probably not
discussed.
in your contract. Like,
It's definitely not.
hello. Yeah.
Hello.
And
There
I'm
were so
assuming
many
this
other
was like
things.
pre-intimacy coordinator days.
It was kind of, it was right before Me Too.
Yeah.
Right before, like months to a week.
Oh,
And
wow.
I remember I was like, but you don't own me and you don't own my career. And you're an old, creepy man. What do you know about what I go through
And isn't that
for
always the
my
case?
career?
It's always an old creepy man.
What do you know about me? Exactly. Like, what do you know about me or anything about being a woman or anything about being a girl or an actor, you talentless hack? What do you even know? And so for you to tell me that I'm not going to have a career because of that, I had never seen you again and I'm still working. So bye.
Right.
What I
Well,
say
and
to that.
that's again, that's just like this bullshit narcissistic abusive
Mm-hmm.
crap where it's like, but and
Nice
then
try. Wrong
right,
girl.
and then they try to turn around and tell you like you don't know how good you have it here. You should do this because other places aren't going to ask or aren't going to do X, Y, and Z, and it's just so much better here, and they just gaslight the shit out of you.
It's just like a creepy thing happening
It's
as a kid, or
terrible.
someone who's a bully or like manipulating you, who's in a place of power, saying like, "Don't tell your parents," or "Don't do this," or "Don't do that,"
Right,
because
right,
you'll
right.
get in trouble. It's like, but I'm not the problem, so I'm not
Right.
going to do that.
Right. I'm not the problem. It's not me.
Yeah, actually, right now, I'm actually not the problem. And I've never regretted that decision a day in my life.
No, and
And
why should you? I mean, like even if that movie went on to be like a multi-Academy Award winning Oscar
it
buzz,
wasn't,
whatever.
and it didn't. So
Sure, but like
I
let's
can't
just
say
say
the
it would
name, but
have.
let's just say it didn't. So
Yeah. I mean, like, but like let's just say that it did. Like, would that change the way that you felt about it? Like, would you have been like,
oh,
I should have just done it? Like, oh my.
it would have
Because
been so traumatic because like we all know what it
totally.
feels like when you've compromised something or you don't feel good about a period in your life or a thing that happened. And every time you see that, imagine what that would feel like, me seeing that on a poster or seeing that on a thing or someone ripping that scene off of the movie and
Yeah.
always set, being it online, having it online. And there's no money for that. There's
No.
no amount of money that can take my soul and my
Totally.
integrity.
But I mean, like, that can go either way. Like, yes, you can see it that way, but then you could also be like, well, would it have been so bad? Like, I would have gotten this kind of
Mm-hmm.
career. I would have gotten this
Mm-hmm.
kind of paycheck. I would have an
Mm-hmm.
award. I could say that I was in this, that, and the next thing. And like part of me, like the growing up in an industry that was like, you're a dime a dozen, kid. You'll never work in this town again. Um, I'm not 70 years
The
old,
moving
but you know what
pictures.
I mean?
We got talkies now. You don't
We
even
got
know.
talkies now, things are different now here in Hollywood. um but like having grown up with that kind of mentality where it's like, oh, I have to fall in line and do what I'm told because there's no other opportunities for me. Like it's
I
just,
hope I
yeah,
get it. I hope I
right.
get it. It's
No,
like,
literally, it's that desperation. And I think
yeah.
theater is also a very specific animal too, because
Oh yeah.
you're very much like, for lack of a better word, groomed to believe that you are replaceable, and so you have to fall in line. And that,
Especially in musicals and things where there's like a
especially in
chorus, there's
musicals,
a
yes.
ensemble, there's a da 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 da.
Right. And there's so much like film and television around exactly that, where it's like the chorus boys, the chorus girls. It's like, I could have you replaced in a minute. Like
Yeah,
there's
or doing terrible things to make their way to the top. It's like,
right. Yeah.
it's like, wow. And it's like, why is that something, should that be a genre? I don't know about that.
Maybe, but like,
Yeah.
but then that you also bring up a point about doing terrible things to get to the top. I was listening to something about this earlier that had more to do with like the billionaires and like how they make the money, and how if you made, I think it was like $5,000 a day every day since Christopher Columbus discovered America, you still wouldn't have $1 billion. Right, exactly. So like,
Bill, disgusting.
right. So that was kind of the context of which I was listening to this, and the point was that you have to like drain and manipulate your workforce to make that kind of money. And so then, like, in my mind, like, as an artist, as a creative, like, does doing horrible things to get to the top, is that the same thing? Is that different? Like, because I've certainly had that thought before where I was like, well, I guess I'm just gonna like fuck my way up, like, and I never did.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
certainly opportunities presented themselves and I never took them. And
Yeah.
there is part of me that's like, maybe I should have, but then like, no.
No. Yeah, I just think it all depends on, look, I'm not here to even discredit or dehumanize someone who's done that, especially when it comes to film and TV and what women have been subjected to in the past, where like, come on, babe, if you want this pot, you da-da-da. I mean, that's literally what the casting couch thing
Right.
is.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's happened numerous times. That's been propositioned to me. I've had weird email addresses of big men be like, if you do this, you'll get this part. I'm like, yikes, no.
I've had that a couple times, and you know what I said every single time? Put that in writing. Give me a contract that says that.
Put the money on the table.
Put
Yeah,
the money on the table,
put
bitch.
the money in the writing. Yeah, no, I mean, but here's the thing. It's like,
Because it is like if you want to make this a
if you want to
private,
do it,
if you want to NDA the shit out of this and make this a private agreement that like if we're gonna fuck, you give me a role in this thing, then sure, great. If I have your signature on something
right.
and there is money attached to it,
Yeah,
that's a different thing than if you're
right.
it's just like going on your word, because we all
Right.
know the value of some of these people's words.
And
It's zero.
so I'm not discrediting any women or anyone who, or men who have, or anyone in between who hasn't like, who's done certain things that are, can be viewed as negative things or sacrificing your
No,
integrity
because
to get to the
honestly,
top, because
I don't
the
blame them.
society has made people, and I'm saying everyone, feel like there's something you have to give up to be successful, or an integrity you have to lose. And yes, we see that in billionaires, we see that in like Succession, we see that in, you know, certain people controlling everything, which the MPTP is example. But we also see a lot of examples of people who've stuck by who they are and have made successful, extremely successful careers by standing by certain themselves and their integrity and who they are. You know, there's a lot of women I could name, you know, Tina Fey. There's like so many like creators, like Reese Witherspoon. There's certain people that like constantly are saying, you know what, regardless, this is what I want to do, and you can either get with it or I'm just going to keep it moving, you know. But again, that doesn't go against like playing nice, or like maybe like there's examples that I have from making my own stuff where I had to pivot, but it wasn't at the expense of my integrity or the integrity of the thing. It was just okay, we can't shoot here, I have an idea, or we want to add this, let's do that, or like this won't work because of stunt thing, let's make it safer and make it different and whatever. Like there's things that you can do. But I just know personally me, and I can only speak from my experience, as someone who's worked in this industry for a while now. I could never sacrifice my integrity because I felt like what I have is me, and I believe in myself, and I don't have time for this. Like, you're not going to manipulate. I'm never going to I don't want to feel manipulated into something. It has to be my choice. So whatever that means to someone, that's what it is. But never sacrifice your integrity or your self-worth, or you know, for something that is monetary or career, because in reality, all you have is you to go to bed with at night. And when you're old and you're leaving this earth and whatever is going on, you're not going to be like, man, I love that I did that. You're going to look back at things and you're going to be like, I'm glad that I did this, that I stood up for this, that I am the person I am right now because of the decisions I made and the person I've continued to be. And again, there's power in self-realization. There's power in self-actualization. There's power in declaring your worth, and there's power in not allowing yourself to be manipulated. And it's only helped me. And all those people that have said to me these really crazy fucked up things have all fallen by the wayside. I don't even know what they're doing now. You know?
I mean, I want to go back to something that you said that totally hit me, and I almost cried when you said it. Just like the idea of the feeling that you have to give up part of who you are to get what you want. I mean, fuck, if that hasn't been my entire goddamn life and a career experience where people in all different directions have been like, no, you can't be that way. You can't act this way. You can't walk this way. You can't do this, that, and the next thing. And the amount of effort I've spent and time and money that I've spent like covering all of that up, and then not even wanting to be performing anymore because I would have to go back into that, or I think I would, or I would probably or I'd be pressured into doing it.
Right.
You know, and so like I was just offered something the other day as a possibility to go play a role for a short period of time, and like just the idea of being asked like made me want to throw up, because it really is that whole idea of like I would have to give up the person I've become over the last 3 years and go back to who I thought I needed to be to work. and that's so fucked, you know.
It's
And
so
like,
fucked.
and that's what, and it's, I think it's different now. Like certainly from what I'm seeing with casting and friends and whatnot, it's different now. But when I was coming up through, you, unless you were straight and white, you did not get to be who you were.
It's so fucked.
It's so fucked. And so like now I think this is kind of tying into like where I'm at on a personal level. And again, don't want to harp on it forever, but my feelings now are very similar to that, in that for me to survive and make the kind of money I want to make, I need to give up a lot of who I am to go work in an office somewhere to get it. And I have so many people around me, you included, that don't do that and do make good money and don't have to give up who they are.
Yeah.
And it's just me bullshitting myself again. Because that's what I've been, again, for lack of a better term, groomed to do.
Yeah.
And like, old habits die hard, bitch.
They die so damn hard. But it's also about perception.
Totally.
Like
I mean, and
there's
allowing
bookings
yourself to believe certain perceptions.
because there's bookings that I have or have done that someone would be like, "Oh, are you really into that?" I'm like, "Did you see the money?" But also, I'm bringing 100% Sarah seeds to the table.
Right.
There's
Did
no
you see the
mistake.
dollars?
There's no mistake who's coming. You know what I
Right.
mean? There's no mistake that I was hired because it's me and that's why I'm there, and it's going to be done the way it's me. So it's like, it's also like there's certain bookings and gigs where you're like, this is bullshit, but bring yourself fully to it and things will happen from it.
Yeah.
You know, some of the most silliest things I've done that someone might be like, what the fuck? Have resulted in so much more opportunity that is creatively aligned with me. But everything is always creatively aligned with me because I'm always choosing to say yes to things that don't destroy me, that don't take from me. And obviously that's comes from a place of like privilege, but also opportunity. But it's also like building that groundwork. So when things come to you, you're not entertaining anything that's less than.
Yeah. Well, and I know we've mentioned this before too, but like the way that everything, like that version, like what's going on in that regard with all of my creative stuff, that's easy. Like
Exactly.
I feel like I've gotten that down pat. And so I
You
feel like
have.
I'm looking at two different roads where it's like, okay, this road is working, this one's not, but I need to go down this one to make money to make this work. And so now I'm trying to figure out how to merge those two roads
I
together.
think you know, though. I think you know, and I think I could talk to you about it off camera, but I feel or offline.
Off camera.
But there's things I think that eventually you'll be able to do without ever feeling like you're
Yeah. Well,
working a day in your life.
and that's, well, that wouldn't that be lovely?
Mhm.
And that's, I mean, I think that's such a commonality amongst creative people who are where they're at right now, and if they're not happy with where they're at right now, because there is that feeling, especially those of us who are a certain age, probably likely those of us who are on the queer spectrum of things, who present as such, and you know, haven't spent tons of money to try and cover it. You know, like there is that feeling of having to give up something to become who you want to be.
Right.
And you know, especially within the last year of my work life, that was something that was driven, you know, again, like pounded into everyone, that like, you aren't the person that you are. What is it? It's like, it was like, you aren't the person that you are now is not successful, and so the person that you are now needs to change to get successful. And like, okay, there's some truth in that, sure, because like you have to change habits to get better habits and whatnot. Like you can't be, you know, an alcoholic and then expect it to not drink, you know. Right. So like that I understand, but like it's the becoming a different person part of it that was like, this is not a thing I want to do, and I had so much resistance to it because that has been my whole life, and Pandyland broke that. And I don't want to go back. Like I'm mostly happy with where I'm at now. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm having such a hard time with this whole like job situation. Because again, it feels like I have to give up someone that I am to get there. And so, you know, let us impress upon others
Yeah.
that
Do you
they
feel
don't
like
have to.
though some of that is self-imposed, like if you're going to where you're going to
absolutely.
work, you could still, you're Ed, baby, like you walk in as Ed, you are Ed, like this, you're not giving away, you're and also you're doing things.
It's just also very like, I don't want to say triggering, but it reminds me of when I worked in finance, like full time back in the day, when
Mhm.
you get there and it's just void of personality. Like
Oh yeah, that's
all
horrific.
the
Yeah.
cubicles are beige. Everyone is wearing a white shirt, button down shirt with like khaki pants or blue pants and a tie of some kind. And they're like, everyone has the same haircut. And it's just like this assimilation machine that you're like, how did I get here? Send
Yeah.
help. And I've become one
You
of
know how
them. Like
you're
I'm
there? LOL though, because like truly use it, put the money on the table. You're there, you're learning. This is something
yeah.
that you can creatively
I mean, I'm not
use in a
learning.
lot of things.
I literally sent an email to book a flight today. That's all I did today.
No, but you're learning people. You're learning what it
Yeah.
looks like to be.
Oh my God. It's just a reminder of like the dead insideness of it all.
Yeah, that's gross.
It's so crazy. And it's nothing against these people, but it's very much like, you know,
But
we
it's not for
hear
you.
it's not for me. And
That's
that's, you
okay.
know, I don't mind having, because I tell people, I say this to people, especially writers, a lot, like get a stupid desk job that you can just sit at and write at a computer. And that's what I'm doing. And I do like that component of it. And you know, the idea of having a 9 to 5 while you're still pursuing a creative thing is absolutely, and I'm going to do a TikTok about this later, because
Please do.
this guy on TikTok made a video about this in some way and compared it to like Jessica Vosk, who was working on Wall Street and then she left Wall Street to go become an actor. And I was like, yeah, because she was making a ton of money and she could afford to
Yeah.
just cut it off and go. And
Saving
so
and
right,
saving and leaving. You know, it's
exactly.
like, yeah.
And so like what I kind of want to piggyback off of that to use a corporate terminology is is
We'll
you know,
TB later. Are we aligned? Yeah, keep
right, that
going.
is that you do have to have money to make this easier. Money
Yep.
makes everything easier, you know, like that whole
Yep.
you can't buy happiness thing is a lie. It
Yeah,
can.
bye. Girl,
Yeah,
bye.
if I had money right now, I'd be so happy because I could just do whatever the fuck I wanted. So don't let
Hmm.
anyone ever tell you
Right. It
that.
doesn't equate, like it's not gonna make everything perfect, but it's definitely gonna make things easier. That's
Right. Well,
bullshit. When
and
people
I
are
think
like, it's not that, like it's not gonna change. Like I was like, honey, if you get to like 6 figures plus at some point, you know what I mean? Like there's like I'd say it's probably like in New York, it's probably like I don't know a
it's
number because I
probably
don't want
like
to sound.
it's probably like 150.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's lower even that. Okay, good. I'm glad you said that. So like it's probably like 400K. Anyway, my point is like there's a comfortable level of being alive that has all your base needs and you're able to have a good time and go on trips and travel and pursue your interests. That is a happy level. People should all want to be there. People probably do want to be there. And when you're there, it is a lot easier for you. But you still have to go look at yourself in the mirror and you still have to love yourself. And none of that equates, you know, money doesn't make that happen. So that's why I think there's like a weird disconnect when people are like money doesn't buy happiness. Like obviously,
It does.
bitch, like you have to love yourself, but it really makes it easier to be happy,
Right. Well,
doesn't
and
it?
I think the second part of that is money doesn't buy happiness, sure, not in a physical kind of way,
No,
but having it and deciding what to do with it and having
makes
the
it easier.
ability and the freedom to decide what to do with it, yes, makes it me happy. It makes other people happy because then you're not sitting at home counting pennies and trying to be like, what the fuck am I doing next month?
Right. Because well, yeah, like yeah, that's
Yeah.
like because like what of all the things we've been talking about, even like in the last hour, have been about power and autonomy. And really all of these things that we're talking about, the strikes, the you know, AI, the living, creativity, it's all about having autonomy and power in your life. And money can help you with that. It's
Yeah.
not the end all be all, but I'm saying it is a baseline. It's like the same thing when I say like someone who's born with a certain set of privileges have a baseline is a little bit, it's higher than someone who's born with a lesser set of privileges. So all I'm saying is like with some money, it does give you some little
Gives you the leverage. And
yeah,
I've been in situations in the 18 years that I've lived here where I've had money
yeah.
and I've been good. Like I've been great. And then there are times where it's like, okay, it's
Da, 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 da,
back
da.
to Pop Tarts and ramen.
Da, da,
But
da, 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 da. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But you
You're
know,
like
and then,
strawberry flavored, no frosting. You're like, oh,
oh God, what do I do?
do they even make those? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Anymore.
mean, like, you know, the days where you could just leave your air conditioner running 24/7, it didn't matter because you were like, it's
Mhm.
fine, you know, like,
You're like, oh, the ice tundra's here and
oh, the
she's
ice cream,
living.
Con Ed and that bill, let me
On
have it.
Edison me. Yeah.
Yes. Um,
Spectrum
Edison, me, daddy.
me.
Yes.
Spectrum of me. Yeah.
Thankfully, Spectrum doesn't change because Jesus, could you imagine if they build you the way that Con Edison does?
Oh
My
my God. For internet usage, they'd be like, bitch, you were
Lord.
doing zooms, all I want to do,
Right.
zooms, and
Right.
it's
Give me your IRA.
$800, bitch, a
Right.
month.
Well, like they
Yeah.
used to do with text messages where it was like 10 cents a text.
OMG. What
Look
an
how far we've
absolute,
come.
that is so bamboozled. Like they're like, oh, well, like, guess what? You get this many. And you always reach that. And then they
In
would
like
get
4 minutes. Yeah, it was
Yeah, I'm
terrible.
like, this is not a deal. This is not a steal other than what you're doing to me. You're robbing
Exactly,
me.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, but you are right. It does give you the power and autonomy, and that feeling when you have the power and autonomy feels so
Mhm.
good. I remember
Oh my God,
in the
yeah.
days when I was wrapping up bartending and I made the decision to be like, I'm out. Those shifts that I went to where it was like, I don't need this job. I don't need to be here. Fuck all of you. If this
Yeah.
goes away right now, it's fine. And
Yeah.
like even at the end of Chicago too, it was kind of like, I don't
That's right.
care. I'm good. I'm gonna go to Europe for 3 weeks. And like I had a little breakdown, and I'm not gonna lie about that, but
Okay,
like
cool. Yeah.
it felt good to be able to have the power to swipe the card and go to Europe and do whatever the fuck I wanted. And that felt amazing.
Uh,
God, everyone needs to watch this to get the context of
yeah.
that. Swipe.
Swipe me.
But yeah, so I mean it's power and autonomy. And maybe that's the episode title, because
Power
really
and autonomy, baby.
if you can have that from a young age and you can hold on to that for dear life, god damn it. Like my life would have been so much easier.
And I want to say too, on the flip side, and this also agrees with everything we're saying, but it also, I'm not gonna say any names because we all have these people in our lives that have unlimited money and they ain't doing shit.
Yeah.
So honestly, it can buy you things, but you better put your money where your mouth is. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and that also goes back to it's not having the money that makes you happy. It's what you do with it that makes you happy. And so
Yes,
if you
that's probably
have it
Disney quote. It's what you do with the cash that really makes
right.
you happy. It's not the money itself.
That's from
It's what
Frozen
you
or
do with
something.
the
I don't
cash.
know.
It's from Pinocchio. The fairy comes and she's
Right,
like,
it's
when
from
you
Cheetah
wish upon
Girls.
a dollar. Yeah.
But yeah. Well, anyway, this has been a therapy session brought
It
to you
has. I
by
love it though.
I Wanna Be a Rich
Listen,
Bitch.
we're
I've
all
been
having
on the
it. I've
struggle
been
bus.
having a moment too, because even today, like all these opportunities, so I'm not complaining, but it's like, it's like, holy shit, what's happening in our industry and how will this affect us? But also like, I can't be frustrated. I need to like let myself not be frustrated about ignorance, because it's like, even people I like know personally, I'll be like, yeah, I think it's coming. I think it's probably gonna happen. Or maybe it's not, but
But it
it's a
probably is.
bargaining, but it really is. And people who don't understand are like, oh my God, you're not going to work for like months. You're not going to work for like, they're freaking. And I'm like, it's so doom and gloom. And I'm like,
Yeah,
you
good.
just don't
It's
know how
fine.
that, you don't know anything. I can still do commercials, honey. I did that print ad for like, that's still going to happen.
Kickity
Come
ca
through.
cash.
Kickity ca 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 ca. But the point is that we can't be like, so like, it's so jumping to like a conclusion. Like
Yeah.
we're
I
done.
think that's such human nature though too. Like we see one little thread come loose and we're like, oh, throw it away. The whole sweater is gonna fall apart.
Yeah. Oh my God, God forbid someone's human. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
it's very interesting. So yeah, I just want to just say, not everything is as extreme as it looks, and not everything is the end of the road.
Yeah.
And we've survived everything we've been through in our lives.
Yeah. And that also, again, power and autonomy comes back to having something else that isn't this, so that when something like this does happen and it does go away, because again, these are not like year-long contracts that you're doing. These are like days and months and weeks. You have something to go to that makes you happy and fulfills you and brings you money, so that when this stuff like disappears and goes in its ebbs and flows as it does, you still have some kind of power over your existence.
And you have something that's just as, if not more powerful, as you have, and we've talked about this too. Like when we were in lockdown, we had people reaching out to us that we could reach out to too.
Yeah.
That's worth so much, because there's people with money that don't have anyone. Yeah. So they can eat really nice dinners, but that guy threw himself off that building. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't really, so it all has to do with power and autonomy. And like, that's what it is to be a rich bitch. It's not just being financially well, it's being mentally well, it's being holistically well. And we have to keep that in mind in these really shaky times that we're going through.
Yeah. And they are shaky.
Oh God. It's like Rise of Jurassic Park. He's like, must go faster. When like the T-Rex is coming and the water's like boom.
Yeah. Well, the
Jeff
T-Rex,
Goldman's like,
it
Jeff
very
Goldman's
much
like
feels
shirtless in the back, and obviously like it's a camera angle that like Steven Spielberg was like, I'm getting these thirsty shots of Jeff Goldblum, and he's just like,
truly.
he's just leaning back. He's like, oh damn, the T-Rex is coming. I'm like, why are you shirtless? Like, you know what? Doesn't matter. Good for you.
Just be shirtless.
Just be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the T-Rex is a coming.
Yeah, she's coming down.
She might be here already. We don't know.
Well, that bitch has stubby arms, and I'm about to fucking clock her. So
Slap her around. Yeah.
Slap her around. Well, this has been a treat, and
this has been a treat.
And you guys need to tune in and just know that we have a lot of fun things coming, and I'm really excited.
Yeah. And in a very selfish way, I'm so glad that we did this tonight because I feel better.
Me too.
Great.
Imagine
I love
talking.
That for us. Words
Put
are
the money
spells.
You're so
on
rich.
the table.